There's some recent news about OpenAI pulling the code red lever. There's a lot of pressure from Sam and leadership in OpenAI to upgrade ChatGPT. New research out there, speech editing plus multilingual voice cloning in 11 languages. This is VoiceCraft X, the latest AI bubble take. This is from the Washington Post, and that circularity is a flashing warning for the AI boom. Some analysts and commentators warn that the rapid investment surge in AI infrastructure, meaning chips, data centers, is creating a circular investment feedback loop reminiscent of the... Hey everybody, welcome back to the Scott Stephenson AI Show. We're here to talk about some news. First up, Gemini 3. They just released a new mode. Deep Think mode goes live, raising the bar for reasoning AIs. The general idea here is that they have parallel reasoning now, okay? So this is not, I don't know. Interpretation here, this is not that weird. They're basically just throwing more tokens at the problem. Generally, though, before, the reasoning models would only have like one line of reasoning. They would, instead of just blurring out the answer like a standard model, they would say, oh, let me think about it. This is a chain of thought, reasoning, this is a deep research mentality. Basically what they do is they would just write down what they're thinking. Oh, the person asked me this question. I probably need to think about these things. And literally it's like an internal monologue that is being written down. Then it goes through all of that. It forms a response. It says, oh, I'm done with thinking. And then now here's my response. And the user experience is that it might just say thinking, but if you expand that, you can see that internal monologue for if you're like in a chat bot. What Google is talking about here is it's not one internal monologue, it's multiple internal monologues. So multiple brains thinking about the problem and then working with each other to try to solve the problem. This is what they call deep think mode. And the benchmarks are looking pretty good for this. It's not weird that this is just another form of scaling. So before you would take your model and say, just blurt out the answer. Then it was discovered that if you allow it to have an internal monologue, then it gets better. Now they're just answering the question. What if you have multiple internal monologues? Well, so it gets better, okay? This isn't solving the complexity problem or the scale problem for AI, though. It's actually kind of going in the opposite direction. It's saying, well, we need more compute, more tokens, more, go bigger, and then it gets a little bit better. That's interesting. It's, it's good that there's an avenue that you can go down and just say, spend more energy or spend more dollars or whatever in order to get a more intelligent response. But hey, there's a lot more work here to be done because just expanding horizontally with many internal monologues probably isn't the trick long term that gets us to AGI, that gets us to human level intelligence, et cetera. It's just a trick to get a little bit more accuracy. But that's cool. Deep Think is out. Gemini 3 Deep Think is out. Go check it out. Speaking of Gemini and its effects on the market, there's some recent news about OpenAI pulling the code red lever. This is big news because they have an internal scramble going on where there's a lot of pressure from Sam and leadership in OpenAI to upgrade ChatGPT because of the pressure from Google and Gemini and the tools that are there. So basically, from the outside, it looked like Google was really sleepy on AI. Their first models that they released were like weird. A couple of years ago, people were like, I don't like these. But Google is stiff competition when it comes to consumer applications, especially when it's threatening their ad revenue and Google search revenue. So they built a really compelling ChatGPT competitor, and right now it's better than ChatGPT. It's probably better than Claude as well. Lots of people are moving to it and like it. And nano banana stuff and everything that's going on, just they're really striking a chord with the market. And OpenAI is understandably freaking out a little bit about this because, well, they have a highly leveraged company, spending a lot of money, burning a lot of money, et cetera. And their whole brand was that we're the best. And it's feeling like to most people, they're not the best now. And yeah, so there's internal memos that were leaked declaring a code red and shifting resources to rapidly boost ChatGPT's performance, reliability, and reasoning capabilities. I think the reliability and performance part is really important here because OpenAI does not have a reputation of being reliable, and Google is doing a much better job with that. So it's not just about the model capabilities. It's also, is the model there for you when you need it? And so they're working on all of these things at the same time. So they're reportedly pausing and postponing less critical projects in order to focus on ChatGPT. Yeah, this is 3 years since OpenAI first released ChatGPT. It was the king for all this time, etc. But now it's sort of showing its age, and now they have to reinvent themselves and go after it and stop spreading so wide. I would look at this like, hey, there's a text war out there. Google is very good at text. OpenAI is good at text. Anthropic is very good at text. Those are like the three big ones. And they all have to focus now on that text war and what is the consumer and prosumer product going to be in the text world. There's a whole bunch of space for B2B still, Writer and companies like that. But yeah, they're focusing now on this consumer and prosumer battle. Yeah, it's going to get interesting here. We'll see what OpenAI comes out with. Other news from OpenAI, they acquired a company, Neptune AI. They just announced that on December 4th. Neptune is a startup that builds tools for tracking, managing, and debugging AI model training workflows. This is probably more like an internal tools kind of purchase rather than them selling that product, especially given the recent focus on like just make ChatGPT successful, and if ChatGPT isn't successful, then the company won't be successful. They're probably thinking more like, hey, I need amazing model training workflows to help accelerate the model training for ChatGPT. Congrats to Neptune. So reportedly around $400 million purchase there, so a little less than $500 million. And OpenAI already used Neptune's tools internally. They're just gonna pump it up and own it all. Yeah, I've had some questions about this. Like, what does Scott think about an OpenAI IPO in 2026? Is it too soon, too late? How would the OpenAI IPO impact the AI market? Is this acquisition part of OpenAI's plan to avert the code red situation mentioned above? Or is the timing of this acquisition merely a coincidence? I think from an acquisition perspective here, it's probably a coincidence. I mean, they have cash. They're trying to accelerate things. They're going after that. They have an internal tool. They like it, and they're like, man, we're tired of going to that company and paying them money and trying to get them to build what we need. We'll just buy the company, and then we'll definitely build what we need. Like that's almost certainly their thinking behind it. But is an IPO coming in 2026 for OpenAI? I mean, maybe, but it would be I think they have to get some stuff in order to have the IPO market think about that favorably, because one of the beauties of being a private company is that you don't have to tell everybody everything that's going on in your company. When you file for IPO, you have to write down all of your major customers and how you make your money or lose your money and how much of it and that type of thing. I think with the general sentiment in the market right now, where folks are saying like OpenAI is sort of the poster child for an overhyped, money burning, super large AI company, I don't know if that's going to be their move right now. If the AI like boom was trending a different way, where it's just like to the moon, and everybody was still thinking that way, then they might go down this IPO path in 2026. My prediction, though, probably not right now. At least with the way the winds are blowing, this acquisition is probably not related to that. 2026, maybe they come out more strongly and say in 2026 that they want to IPO. I'm not so sure it's actually going to happen in 2026 unless the tide changes drastically. There's also a question of like, do they want to IPO? They might just sort of threaten IPOing in order to give investors some positive sentiment. Like they feel bullish about the company, maybe we'll IPO. That might be their strategy too, where they sort of bait it for years and then don't actually IPO. Not sure. We got more to talk about though with Meta and WhatsApp and the different Meta platforms hit by an EU antitrust probe over AI policy changes. So, Meta changed some of their AI policies. The EU is coming down on them. This is kind of a pattern. I mean, this has happened to Meta's companies and products in the last decade or so a few times. But AI is the new target. Understandable, I guess. Meta is probably one of the easiest targets for them just because of the sentiment in the world. Cambridge Analytica, there's still the echoes and aftershocks of that are in everybody's brain. And so, they could come down hard on Meta and people aren't going to get too upset about it. A little harder to come down on Google. Also, Google seems to play the regulatory game a little better. But nevertheless, there's a European Commission that has formally launched an antitrust investigation into Meta's 2025 changes to its WhatsApp policy. That policy blocks third-party AI chatbots from using business APIs. So Meta is thinking about this from a product perspective, probably something like, we don't want other people to bring in better chatbots. We want to own that experience and pump up our brand. They might be worried about people like Google, like OpenAI, like Anthropic, others that already have a well-established chatbot that people like. Instead, Meta's like, no, we want to keep this for ourselves, and it's only going to be Meta's AI assistant that is allowed on Meta's properties, like, WhatsApp. But yeah, the EU is coming at them over this. Regulators are concerned that this move could unfairly disadvantage competing AI providers and potentially stifle innovation or limit user choice. Valid concern. It definitely limits user choice. These are widespread platforms. Many people use WhatsApp and other properties and products to communicate with their loved ones, etc. And if they can only use Meta in them, yeah, it's limiting user choice. Stifling innovation? I don't know, maybe. But yeah, this type of probe reflects the increasing scrutiny on how big tech companies wield their platform control in the AI era. So they want to keep the platform for themselves and their own AI tools. EU kind of isn't cool with that. And this might influence how others out there do it too. Learn a lesson from this and try and guard against it. They also might work with the regulators more. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah, we have a question here, which is, when you're the CEO of a growing AI startup that has to compete with both big tech and AI startups, what do you think about big tech wielding platform control? So DeepGram is a growing voice AI company. Many people build their voice AI products on top of DeepGram. If we were trying to build on others' platforms, and we do, we have partnerships with many companies out there, with Twilio, with AWS, with Sierra, with Decagon, with Vappy, with others, etc. Then yeah, if they were picking sides and saying, we only want this speech to text, or only want this text to speech, or only this LLM, etc., then they wouldn't be like Switzerland, and then it wouldn't allow this type of innovation, etc. Right now, the extreme walled gardens like WhatsApp are kind of off limits. Same thing with, like, if you trigger Siri on your phone, it's not going to call an arbitrary API under the hood and get things done for you, which as a user, you probably would love if that was the case, because then your AI assistant would actually work. But yeah, it is a stifling thing in the market for them to say, tough luck, all the users out there, especially in the US, you guys are just stuck with whatever that hardware provider or platform provider wants, is trying to keep for themselves. Capitalism is not taking full root and having all the thousand flowers bloom in that case. So it's actually kind of funny. You look at other countries out there like China or others, they're more free with this, and EU is trying to say, hey, everybody has to be free with this, so that it can promote this competition and give better user choice and value and everything. Probably a good thing that they're doing this type of thing. A lot of folks get on the EU's back about regulating AI too much, but if it's in the name of fair competition and capitalism, that's actually this is a good angle to go down. If it's like, slow down, AI is too powerful, that's a weirder angle to regulate, because you want to promote the competition in the world, which is what this type of action that they're taking now does. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's real. It's good in many ways, like what is happening here. Like, folks, keep your services open so that everybody can compete on them and just have a better product. And that's why people use it. This has been the argument for Apple for a long time. They haven't done that, but we'll see what happens in the future. I think they probably will open up to this more. I'm just seeing this more, that many of these big companies say, no, we're going to do it ourselves. But for the most part, startups are winning in the AI world, especially when you're talking about speed of delivery and staying on the frontier. And the big companies are slow, and so the big companies should just like kind of embrace being a big company, and then just like host the new products on their platforms, and then let those new products duke it out, those new companies duke it out, and then maybe buy the big one or whatever it is. Like that. They should be thinking along those lines, but they should also be competing. Sure. Yeah. Start their teams and then everybody's going to learn and then, may the best product win. We got a new one from Slater. Voice AI dubbing is booming, but emotion might be the true secret sauce. This is a new story from them. According to the CEO of VoiceSeed, I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced, VoiSeed, VoiceSeed. According to the CEO of VoiceSeed, the rise of AI-driven dubbing and voiceover workflows isn't just about accuracy. I think the idea here is, yeah, you say the words, cool, but if you say them in kind of a non-inspiring, more monotone way, then it doesn't quite get the message across. And really, emotion, tone, pacing, and that type of thing is becoming a differentiator in these systems. So this is particularly coming into play with like creators that create a 10-minute YouTube video and then they say, hey, I want to launch this to 100 different languages, 100 different markets. How do I do it? Am I going to sit down and learn 100 languages and redo my voiceover in that? Like, no, not at all. But they'll partner with companies to say, hey, here's my English or whatever original language it was in. Here's my soundtrack or, the audio for the video that it created. Now just redub all of that into a new language and then launch, release that and notify all my followers that, if they're interested in this topic and speak this other language, they can watch it in that language. This is huge. This is big because you do one thing once, you make it really good in that, and then you hit a button and then bam, you just ship to 100 new markets. So yeah, this is absolutely a game changer for creators. Yeah, the emotion, tone, pacing, that natural prosody that is happening in audio and communicating information via voice. Yeah, all of that matters. If you just sort of did a monotone TTS version of it, we've all seen the AI slop videos. They're not that great. But yeah, so you don't want that, but you want a more natural version of it. It's here. It's coming out. The technology behind it already exists. It's going to continue to get better. It's a new angle. It's a new market. It's going to be big. And I think people are already seeing it. But look for your favorite creators to support 50 different languages in a very short period of time. New research out there, speech editing plus multilingual voice cloning in 11 languages. This is VoiceCraft X claiming to unify multilingual voice cloning, speech synthesis, and speech editing. So VoiceCraft X, introduced in November 2025, is an autoregressive neural codec language model that unifies speech editing, i.e. modifying existing recordings, and zero-shot TTS/voice cloning across 11 languages. So general idea here is you have audio already and you want to change it. So like maybe you want to move ums and ahs, or you want to say like spice it up or add more emotion to it or whatever it is, but you already had it recorded. Can you just tell the model to do that and then you don't have to do the work again? And VoiceCraft X is claiming, yes, you can do that type of thing. But they're also saying that same model can generate from nothing. So first thing I was talking about is modifying it. Hey, take this thing and make it better. There's another angle here, which is like, I want you to say these words. I haven't given you a recording, but I've given you a voice or something. Now say those. And general idea is they have unified that into one model. Big surprise? Not really. There's like all this sort of everything will be one model, like trend is definitely happening. This is the end-to-end deep learning movement that has been happening for 15 years. This is just another step in it. So you get TTS working well enough on its own, you get editing or super sampling or looks maxing the audio, get that type of model going. Okay, then you say, well, why don't we combine them all? And then once you get that working for English or something, well, why don't we do it for 11 languages, And so that's what this is. Supporting English, Mandarin, Japanese, Spanish, French, German, Italian, Polish, and more. So generally the idea here is like for podcast, content creation, dubbing workflows, this could be huge for all those things. Imagine editing spoken audio, like fixing mistakes, changing language, adjusting timing, without re-recording. So you're kind of the director, the producer here, saying like, do it again, make it better, spice it up, but you already have the recording, but it's just being adjusted and making it better. Or change the lines, do it this way. Boom. Okay. So that type of model is going to enable a new type of product. So that's the thing that I would really look for. Models like this spawn new companies. So for instance, like 11 Labs and voice cloning was spawned by models like the Tortoise TTS system, where you could just clone voice basically using a diffusion image model, but applied to audio. And it was called Tortoise because it was super slow. This is one of the reasons 11 Labs is so slow. But nevertheless, the general idea here is that a model like this juices a market. So this VoiceCraft X introduces a new modality. Expect new companies to come up or new features to be added to more consumer focused voice AI companies. We can't have an AI podcast discussion without talking about the AI bubble. And now here it is. The latest AI bubble take. This is from the Washington Post, and that circularity is a flashing warning for the AI boom. So some analysts and commentators warn that the rapid investment surge in AI infrastructure, meaning chips, data centers, compute, tools, is creating a circular investment feedback loop reminiscent of the dot-com boom. Anybody who doesn't remember the dot-com boom, there was the general idea for several years. The internet was coming up. Lots of companies were being invested in. Everybody started to realize like the phone lines aren't going to cut it. We're going to need fiber optic cables. We're going to need all sorts of infrastructure, et cetera. We're going to need data centers. We're going to need chips. We're going to need whatever. And so they went down the same path for the internet boom, dot-com boom. Tons of companies were created during that time. Lots of them funded. Lots of them had very high revenue. And then the dot-com bust happened. And a lot of that was shown to be not real. Basically, I say a lot because it wasn't all not real. There were plenty of companies. The internet exists, doesn't it? We're on it. But it wasn't like the people were wrong about the type, but they were wrong about the scale or the timing of it or that type of thing. So this is what everybody's worried about with AI right now. And are there companies that are like too far over their skis, losing money too quickly for their investors? And investors keep dumping billions into it and losing even more. This is like the concern with OpenAI and companies like that. And typically they center on NVIDIA, saying NVIDIA is the GPU provider. They sell to everybody. And NVIDIA's revenues keep going up. How can all this be real? Trillions of dollars are going into this, but only tens of billions of dollars of revenue are being made. Reasonable argument. Let's be clear, though. A lot of this risk is concentrated in just a few companies, right? So sure, NVIDIA's revenues are sky high. And if GPU purchases go down, then their revenues will go down. And then people will think differently about NVIDIA, and therefore their market cap will go down. Okay. It's probably going to happen at some point. This is just how it goes with boom and bust cycles. But is NVIDIA not providing value? Absolutely, they're providing value. It's really more like the speculators in the market are maybe too far out ahead of their skis, and the price to earnings ratio for NVIDIA is maybe out of whack. But nevertheless, there's another way to look at this too, which is like, what about OpenAI or companies like that? Yeah, I think folks have to be a little more worried about companies like that because they're betting everything. Their brand is to be the best, and if they're not the best, which currently they're not, then they have a huge problem. People are, for the first time in a long time, people are moving away from OpenAI. They're not growing as fast as they were before, et cetera. All the money that's being dumped into that company gets people concerned. I think you can look at this very similarly to the .com or to the internet just in general. Like, yes, there was a boom and a bust, but the internet was so important over the time scale of 20 to 30 years, and it's going to continue to be so important, and it's delivered so much value in the world. Like, it's sort of undeniable. This is not of the same type as like NFTs bubbles or something like this. No, there's so much value being created already in products and businesses across the world. The real question is it in line with the valuation of the companies like NVIDIA, others, et cetera? And then therefore the growth of the US economy that is typically tied to those in the S&P 500, et cetera, is it real? It's probably overinflated, okay? But is there value? Absolutely, there's value. Anyway, that's where we are in the market. Thanks everybody for tuning in for the news. I'm Scott. See you next time.